while walking and mingling with people, imposter syndrome is something that's spoken a lot about within our community. I know that not, and I have this conversation a lot about networking. We're not really trained or taught how to network. It's just not ingrained in us. Um, wasn't really taught to, at least at me, in school. And then as an adult, it's kind of one of these things where I'm on air. So naturally, I'm a communicator, right, and I'm friendly and I'm outgoing. But for, other women, it's kind of this thing where you do have this imposter syndrome. Am I good enough? How did I get in this room? What should I say? Is that, is that job, do I meet all the qualifications? So when we think about these mental challenges, these timelines we make up in our mind and how we view ourselves, because we do need to be kinder to ourselves, who are your role models? Like, who do you, I mentioned in my speech earlier today that now as an adult, I have mentors. And prior to this, I had a lot of great men who got me into rooms and who guided me because of my work ethic and because of talent and because I was tough, because that's how I was raised, to be tough. Right. And being tough gets exhausting too. And sometimes you need help. And sometimes you need women to talk to. It's just something you can understand. And so when I think about these great women that I mentioned who have been so instrumental to me and guiding me, I would like to know, who are your role models? Who are people that you look to? And do you have advice for other women who are feeling this way, right, or find themselves in this position?
Well, I want to say so many role models. As a matter of fact, one of them is actually here. I was surprised when I was dropped off by the Uber. Mírala ahí, Cristina Swash, por favor. My forever boss, more than a boss, she was my boss here in Telemundo and NBC, a friend and somebody that I don't want to cry. We're criers, right? Um, yeah. Anyways, so yeah, she's one of those people that you look up to just as a person, especially, the human side. She knows what I went through. So yeah, Cristina Swarsh, I love you so much. She's so tough too, porque ella es fuerte, and I'm like, wow, yo soy una llorona. Pero sí, besides her, I want to say all the women, like I mentioned before, that are doing like business owners and everybody's doing their thing and I just love it, and I see in social media, mi prima tiene un daycare, la otra hace galletitas and they're doing so well too, and so all the small business owners, and I don't like to call it small, but bueno, yeah, we're business owners, right? So I'm very proud of what we're doing. So every time I see a woman, do their el emprendimiento y lo que le nace y lo que quiere hacer y que le va bien, para mí, those are my role models. Because like I said before, women, they didn't have the opportunities maybe, or they didn't have the resources, um, that we have now. That, now we can manage, like she said, emotional intelligence and, financial, whatever. Like we have so many access to so much information nowadays that we can use towards, our future and our kids and our businesses. So those are my role models, the people that I see every day trabajando and, just making it happen. Because at the end of the day, no es fácil, honestly, out there. Y ser mujer, it comes, we're like this. O sea, literalmente, we're like cíclicas. Every day, un día estamos aquí, el otro día aquí. Los hombres no, los hombres son flat. And nosotros the same day, we're like, our emotions all over the place. Oh my God, let's not even talk about perimenopause, that it's killing me. And I'm only 38. Only, And I'm like, doctor, ¿qué es esto? So it's like, y aún así, we make it happen. Lo hacemos. So para mí, it's like I said, sobre todo
Everyday women.
after becoming a mom, I'm like, ¿y cómo que ustedes? O sea, like when I see people that have more than one kid, I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
¿cómo que ustedes lo hacen? Because I have one and I don't even have,
Also,
and they still do it and they make it happen.
shout out to the women who are transparent, and relatable.
That has got me to a lot of trouble though.
That Instagram stuff, No,
I know,
I appreciate, yeah, for all the women who are self-deprecating,
right,
who are
right.
transparent, you are making a difference in women's life because you feel that when we're so vulnerable,
Yes, we
that
are.
allows us to kind of talk about these things,
Right.
right? When you level with someone, because if you don't, it's hard to relate.
No, and I think
And
there's a lot
then,
of things that we need to talk about more
yes,
too.
yes,
You know,
yes,
when it comes to that, because like I said, it's not easy. Yeah, we're making it
no,
happen because it's true.
no,
O sea, menopause is a thing. Like eso te
yes,
mata.
yes,
And
yes,
not even talk about giving birth y las hormonas, but you still gotta go out there. Imagínate yo que trabajé, being in front of a TV. You have to look good, and then I gained 70 pounds when
yeah,
like literally, I gained. And then how do you get? But I had to do it because ¿quién más lo va a hacer?
yeah, yeah.
But people still do it. So those are my role models.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to the beginning of your question where you talked about imposter syndrome. And I know that this is a concept that is actually something foreign to some people. Like, I know that I've had women in my life that have said, when I've talked to men, they actually don't even know what that means. So I think it's really interesting also from that perspective to really understand imposter syndrome and to really like be honest. For me, I feel like I don't necessarily like to use that term. I don't like to give it power because thank you. Yeah. And I really want to encourage anyone that feels like they resonated with what she said in terms of feeling imposter syndrome or going into a room and, of course it's natural to feel a little bit out of place. Trust me, I have felt that way. I have been the youngest in the room going to different entrepreneurship conferences in the city or in New Jersey. I was the youngest person in the HETP program and the Let's program and really coming into it with so much curiosity because I'm going into these rooms with really awesome people that have such extensive experiences and I'm really excited to just learn from them and really just not letting yourself get down if maybe an interaction with someone doesn't go the best way, knowing that you deserve to be here. You bring so much to the conversation with your experiences, with your expertise, just with your curiosity, right? I didn't have an extensive entrepreneurship business background. I don't have my MBA yet. Maybe, that's something down the road. But I really came in with that curiosity and just knowing that I was a sponge and I wanted to absorb everything, but also intentionally because I wanted to pour all that back into ParaKIDS, into scaling that. And even have like gotten to the point now where I also host entrepreneurship workshops and now work with different institutions at higher education level, but also high schools. And so when I think of role models and who those people are for me, I've been part of so many different business related or education related incubators and programs that I have signed up for, that I have made time out of my busy schedule, like all of you have, to show up in person or virtually and show up fully and really take that time for myself as an investment for myself, for my knowledge, knowing that I will be able to translate those skills and those frameworks into ParaKIDS and other endeavors and being able to also disperse that knowledge through LinkedIn posts or just connecting with people and serving as a mentor. And so those role models that like really believed in me and that gave time out of their day to really show me that I could be an entrepreneur, that I can be a social entrepreneur. And I don't have to be a certain age. I don't have to come from a certain background. Not only am I first generation college student, I'm a first generation entrepreneur, which I think is really cool. So, really just stepping into the room and knowing that I bring so much. And as long as I always lead with curiosity and kindness, then I know that will be a good experience. Yeah.
So I want to piggyback off what you're saying related to imposter syndrome. So it originates from the imposter phenomenon, and somehow it has now transitioned to this buzzword of the imposter syndrome. And when we call it the syndrome, it localizes like the problem is within you. I don't belong here, as opposed to the imposter phenomenon, which is about systems. So you are in a system that wasn't designed for people that look like you, that doesn't help people that look like you succeed in a certain way. So whenever you hear the imposter syndrome, I want you to correct people and say, no, there's nothing wrong with me. Right. There's an imposter phenomenon, and it's a systems issue. And to your point, anytime that you do something new, you're going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to feel like I don't belong. Like I've done a bunch of speaking engagements and been on panels and have moderated and facilitated. And I was so nervous coming up here, right? It's the first time doing it in front of this audience with this group of people. That's totally normal. I think we need to normalize the fact that we're going to feel uncomfortable. And that's part of the process. That's part of the evolution. So get comfortable with being uncomfortable is how you sort of overcome the phenomenon. I don't know that there's ever an overcoming in its totality, because you're always going to be doing something new that's going to make you uncomfortable. And if you are very comfortable, then you're not taking enough risks. You need to be putting yourself out there more. Feel uncomfortable, go through the discomfort, and on the other side of that, it's going to be tremendous growth and success. Now, going back to the other part of your question, so who are my role models? Similarly, it's regular people, people in my community, people in my proximity who, you know, lead with their core values, who are incredibly kind and generous and care about other people and impact. So, you know, there's this like trending reel in the social media that's like, oh, I'm rich. And then it proceeds with something that we tend to take for granted, or that isn't about, you know, money or wealth. And I think that I'm rich. No, I'm wealthy because I am surrounded by such empowering women and kind men as well. And, you know, my role models are from my mom to my best friends who are professionals, who are raising babies to be good human beings while also taking care of the aging parents, like many of us, like my mom has Parkinson's syndrome. And so the people who are just doing the everyday grinds that aren't, you know, the typical heroes, those are the role models because they're relatable. They're people like us who are figuring out life for the first time and trying to make the best of it. Those are the role models. And in the entrepreneur space, it's the women who don't gatekeep, who don't see each other as competition, who we see each other as partners, because that's how it should be. There's enough abundance in life that we can all get clients and, you know, have different opportunities. So those are my role models, the people who live in that energy of abundance and kindness and purpose.
We heard a lot about support and community and role models. So I want to know what, how do you show up for your community? You know, you're building and you're busy and you're mothers and you're going through stuff. But at the same time, how do you show up? How do you also inspire others? Because, right, that's part of showing up and letting people know that they can do it too. Even though you're here, you can do it too.
I believe what you said before, being transparent. I think that's what has worked for me. Being in front of a camera for so many years and just, I didn't even go to school for that. I have two majors, international relations and political science, nothing to do with television, but just it was a God-given talent. That's the way I see it. So being able to connect with people a través de una cámara, que es un aparato at the end of the day, and go out there and people see you and they think tú eres su nieta.
Right.
Y tú eres su sobrina Victoria, ¿cómo tú estás? Que te conocen. How's Rafael, the baby? Like, and it's like they're your family. I'm like, okay, I'm doing something right because I'm connecting con Doña Mercedes, la de la esquina, que no en mi vida me ha visto y que me quiere. Y yo la quiero because that's the thing. Yo quiero a todo el mundo. Entonces viene Doña Mercedes, she gives me a hug and I'm like, hi, how are you? So being able to be transparent, I think in my case, and just what you see is what you get. This is who I am, you know? Apparently with my social media, thanks to my job, I was able to build, you know, a big community. So and I talk about this all the time. It's just being yourselves. I mean, this is who I am. Yo no soy ni más ni menos. So I'm able to connect with people that way. And I think I'm showing up to women that way and showing up to my community, just telling them, okay, look, life is not easy, life is hard, pero we can still do it. You know what I mean? And I'm a single mom. By the way, and I just thought about this earlier, this is like the first time I actually tell people, like in public, that I am, that I am a single mom, because no es algo que lo he hecho público. So,
Powerful.
yes, right? So just being able to tell people, you know what, life is not easy, and try to be relatable, and just y los mensajes que recibo. I left New Jersey TV 3 years ago, right? Y hasta este día, I could tell you every single day I get a message from people telling me, we miss you en televisión. Te hace falta en Telemundo, or or what are you doing, or how's the baby? People that saw me with my huge belly in front of TV. So it's like, they got from me what I am. So they're still getting that. So that's how I feel like I'm showing up. Like, okay, I'm going to all these processes. Estamos juntos en esto, como ella dijo. But we don't know, like we're managing this for the first time, navigating life.
Of social
Right.
media, that you
Yeah,
get
of
to
course.
do that on your own terms, on your own time, how you want
Right,
it to, and
right.
nobody's telling you how to do it.
Exactly.
And so,
Especially
yeah,
when, well, you're on TV, so they see you on TV. It's very glamorous, obviously. Uno está bello y hermoso y que te maquillan y te peinan. But at the end of the day, tenemos our issues. So, it's not, it's a beautiful life, and I love it. I love being in front of a camera. Pero let's not romanticize the fact that life is hard, especially, as a woman. So just being transparent.
yeah,
I think that's what y ese es el legado que quiero dejar. Just be yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. So for me, when it comes to giving back to the community, it's been something that has always really been at my core ever since I started ParaKIDS. And so in the very beginning, I would go to different community events, vendor events. I would host activities, do bilingual story times with the children when it was really nice weather outside and, indoors as well. And over time, that has also really transitioned as we've grown. School partnerships really formed really strong relationships with parent liaisons, with vice principals, with teachers, actually being able to be part of career day, which is very common among a lot of schools. I particularly go on career days with elementary schools, and that has been such a really amazing experience and really a way that we give back because we go into those rooms and we really show those students, this is my journey of what it's like to not only write a book, but a book that is bilingual in English and Spanish and actually self-publish it. And so that was also like a whole like other journey, right? Deciding to really from the get-go do the hard thing. Traditional publishing, it has its own difficulties, if you will, but it is much more smooth and you can kind of predict how it's going to go. Versus self publishing, you're kind of on your own from the very beginning and you have to figure out everything. You have to take care of, the entire production process and distribution process for all of your books. But that was something that I did intentionally because I already saw in the publishing industry the lack of bilingual tools, the lack of representation of Hispanic and Latino characters, right? Unfortunately, it's something that it's still true today, where our students and our kids, they're not seeing themselves in the media, whether that's through books or whatever other type of media. And so it was really important for me to really build this media company and really build it in a way that I was going to have that authority to know, like, no, this has to be a bilingual book. This has to be authentically Spanish in a way that really resonates with these children and resonates with the parents as well. And so, Career Day and being able to talk about what I've been building since high school, giving those students that hope and also showing them how I'm just like them and I went to schools just like they did and I also grew up in a bilingual immigrant household. Like these are things that really do make a difference. And so that's been really one of my favorite ways to give back to the community. And alongside that, also working with different companies and organizations to also sponsor bilingual books. So if you're someone that, your company or you're the head of the company and you'd be interested in sponsoring bilingual books for a school that you care about or a community that you care about, let's definitely connect because that's definitely a way that we can make bilingual education more accessible. You might be surprised, but when I talk to parents, especially those that come from immigrant or Hispanic households, and especially those that moved here to the United States, the reason why some of them don't read with their kids at home at all or very often is because they can't read in English. And so then there's that gap. How do we solve that gap? Through bilingual education. Our bilingual books are fully in English and Spanish, meaning that whether it's a parent that only speaks English and they want their child to become multilingual and learn Spanish, or whether it's a parent that only speaks Spanish and they want their kids to also continue with their Spanish, or they want to learn English themselves and learn together. Those beautiful learning literacy moments, that's what our bilingual books, that's what bilingual education offers. So that's something that we've also been really, connecting with different companies and sponsors to be able to bring that bilingual joy to all communities.
I love that. Bilingual joy. That's a gem right there. I love that. When I think about community, what comes up for me is the 3 C's that are part of my core values, and that's create, connect, and celebrate. So creating opportunities, especially for the next generation. And I've done that through volunteer work, through board service. So I used to be on some nonprofit boards like 100 Hispanic Women New Jersey, American Needs You New Jersey, the Cuban Alliance for Leadership and Education. And so at that season in my life, it was through, giving my time and serving as a volunteer, as a mentor, and providing my expertise. In this season, as I'm building a business and trying to grow a business, it looks a little differently. It's more around highlighting those organizations, sharing it with other people so that they can support. It's, don't financial donations. So how you pay it forward and how you give back can look differently, and depending on what season you're in. And all of it is great because all of it is service in some capacity. Connect is connecting with other people, so really building connections with folks and figuring out how we can be of service to each other, connecting them to other opportunities. Shout out to Dr. Jairo, who is excellent at doing that. We all know that. I keep dropping this thing. But really connecting people with opportunities is super important to serve community. And finally, celebration. I'm really big on celebrating because life is either short or too long, depending on how you look at it. But either way, I think that I am a firm believer that we should celebrate the small wins, the big wins, even the failures. Like I had a divorce party, okay? And I am that person. Like I will, bring you flowers and a card when it's your last day at work because you decided to jump into entrepreneurship, or I'll show up with a bottle of champagne for your biz anniversary. And I think there's always these like opportunities to celebrate each other that we should take advantage of, because that's what makes life sweet and joyful. And, like, isn't that the whole point, to enjoy it? So create, connect, celebrate.
Right. So true. So our last question before we open it up to Q&A is, why is it so important for women to support other women, especially when things can get competitive? And I think this is really important because I think sometimes some women think there's not enough space, and that's not true. And you don't need to fight for crumbs. And sometimes I do feel like, even in my career, some opportunities are just not meant for you. It wasn't meant for you. And that doesn't mean that you can't cheer someone else on or celebrate them. I have 4 women here, including Delta, Monica. I mentioned all of them. They're here to support me. They have celebrated me. I can't think of a time. Thank you. And just the way they support me, I'm shouting them out, because there's only small opportunities in life when you get a chance to do that. So I'm going to do that now. It is hard. You mentioned that, being a mom. I have 2 little girls. I have a 4-year-old and I have a 7-year-old. I have 2 little girls watching me all the time. I am trying to show up for them as much as I'm trying to show up for myself. I have a very supportive husband. I wouldn't be able to do half the things I can do if it weren't for my husband. And really, that started with my dad. That a strong male role model. I grew up with a strong who said, you can do anything you want. Don't let anyone stop you. And so I think about female connection and about showing up. I can't think of a time that when you think about that circle where I call someone who's just as busy as me or who knows I need that call and says, you look beautiful. You did amazing. I saw that post. Congratulations.
Right.
Drops off that bottle of champagne, sends me a card. And so it doesn't need to be a dog eat dog. And honestly, I feel like if you are or finding yourself, leave it. Just leave it. It's nobody wants that energy anyway. And so there are women who, if you find that or can surround yourself by women and leaders and people that you look up to, stay in that light, stay closer to that circle and that energy because you want that energy moving forward. And there's going to be people even that you love that are going to drain you. And there are people who take it. It's not always something physical, it's energy that they take. And I'm realizing that now in this chapter, you have to be able to regulate that. And so, and now asking you this, what is the importance of women empowerment and supporting other women? And even when it gets competitive, and we know, especially, I can only speak to my field in television, it can get dicey sometimes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I don't know. And speaking from experience, yeah, it's especially in our industry, when it comes to being in front of a camera, a lot of people do that and, things like that. But I feel it's about collaboration. And I think that we're learning that juntas somos más fuertes. Como que, what's the point? Como que, if there's not just one space for one person at the table, and if there is, we build a bigger table. You know what I mean? Like, why only one person? So it's about confidence. Once again, we go back to confidence. O sea, yo sé lo que yo traigo a la mesa. Y lo que yo traigo a la mesa quizás no es lo que ella trae a la mesa, pero ¿por qué no colaboramos? You know what I mean? Like, why do we have to have that? Like, I never, even though I understand that industry is like that because I saw it a lot, I've seen it, pero yo nunca me sentí de esa manera. And maybe I'm a little bit naive, pero I never felt that my coworkers had, any kind of, you know, or felt any sort of way about, me. I don't know. I just think that lo que está para ti. And if it's meant for you, it's meant for you. If it's not the right time, no va a pasar. And that's just how it is. But if we all collaborate together as women, like we're doing now, it's a beautiful thing. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, it costs nothing. It costs nothing to compliment someone or give them their flowers.
Right.
Give people their flowers because when it's your turn, you're going to want your flowers too.
Right.
But it costs nothing. I actually enjoy complimenting people.
Yeah.
It feels good. And honestly, it costs you nothing to be kind, to compliment, and to really congratulate people when it's their time too. That's just another.
And the return that you get, whether you do it
That's right.
intentional
Thank
or
you.
not, I think
That's right.
that whatever you believe in, the universe, God, o sea, que sea, is 3 times more. O sea,
Right.
esto es because that's the way it is.
That's right.
Period.
Now, Daniela, you had mentioned feeling like sometimes the youngest in a room and entering these different rooms. Tell me a little bit about your experience and how you would answer this question.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that. So, apart from in the past going into spaces and, maybe being the youngest person there, oftentimes I was also the only Latina or the only Latino Hispanic person in general entering those rooms. And so from a very early age, just like going into those spaces and even, you know, giving my 60-second elevator pitch, what is ParaKIDS? What do we do? Right? Because we're going there with intention to grow, to scale, to get partnerships. It really taught me about the art of the pitch and how, depending on the room that you're entering and the type of people that are going to be there, how do you communicate and how do you position what your value add is, what ParaKIDS is. And so throughout like my experience, that has been something that I've really had to learn about, because not everyone in those rooms certainly knows what it's like to grow up in a bilingual, multilingual household. Not everybody understands why, for me, when I saw my younger brother experiencing language barriers, that was such a big issue. That was heartbreaking, right? So it really took that time and self reflection and communication with peers and people from all types of backgrounds to really understand, okay, this is how you position it so that they actually understand why this is such a big issue, why this matters in Latino, Hispanic, immigrant, multilingual communities. And in terms of women empowerment, I can confidently say that I would not be here if it wasn't for all the women, both from my community, but also from all these different professional and academic spaces that really believed in me, empowered me, shared with me their wisdom, or even just checked in on me just through a text. Like, you don't know how much that also makes a difference if you have some sort of mentee or some level of person in your life that's younger that has ever asked you a question, or you've had a coffee chat with them or something like that. So that has really made all the difference. And really, I just believe that there, personally, I don't think that there's any competition against other women. I've always seen it as the competition is against me, who I was yesterday, who I was last year, who I am every single quarter, and how can I optimize and get better for Q2. And really, I feel like that's the best way to success, and to just like making sure that you're actually, becoming successful and you're staying true to your morals. Because personally, I want to go to sleep at night and know that not only did I positively impact all of these youth and families through ParaKIDS, but I'm also positively impacting young women of color, Latina women that want to enter education, entrepreneurship spaces. And that's been something that has been so critical for me. And so it's always just self reflection. And there's so many areas that I know that I can improve. And I'm just excited to learn from people and excited to just get better, because it's you versus you, it's me versus me.
You versus you.
Love
Yeah.
that. Love, love, love that.